So, academic writing. So, before I delve into the academic writing, now, writing is very important. It's a very important component in everybody's journey. In every journey of any field, writing is very important. So, if you talk about, the sciences, if you talk about the engineering, if you talk about business and entrepreneurship, writing is a very important component. Is that okay? Writing is a very important component. Now, this is a fellowship, so I can actually talk about scriptures and all. Now, if you look at the man Moses in the Bible, Moses wrote the creation narrative in the Bible, all right? So if you look at the first five books in the Bible, the Old Testament, it was written by Moses. And Moses was strategically chosen to actually write the creation narrative. Okay. Now, Moses had to leave his people. All right. And he grew up in a civilization that invented paper. Moses grew up in Egypt. And Egypt was the first and the only civilization that invented paper. It's what we are using today. It was invented by Egypt. And he also studied at the University of Egypt, the first university. All right? So he was carefully selected to actually write the creation narrative. It was not by mistake. It was not by mistake. So he had to study in Egypt. He had to study it in Egypt. So if you take another person like Paul in the Bible, Paul understudied Professor Gamaliel, and he went to the University of Gamaliel. Very intelligent young man, okay, and he was a lawyer as well. And so if you look at most of the epistles in the New Testament, he wrote those epistles. All right? So writing is a very important component. So in the Old Testament, you see Moses dominating, and you can look at the chronology of his background. If you go to the New Testament, you see Paul also dominating. So it means that writing is a component or is a part of, writing should be the most important part of everything that we do. Because everything we are doing here, even at the Escape world, you need good writers to tell the story of Escape. Is that okay? You need good writers to tell the story. You need very good writers. So, writers are very important. Very, very, very important people. Very, very, very important. Very important. So, everybody must write. It's a must for everybody to write. Now, why is it very difficult for a lot of people to write? People have reasons why they cannot write or they don't want to write. It's not because they don't have the capability, but they just don't want to write. So a lot of people believe that no one will believe in their ideas. No one will believe in their ideas. All right? So who cares about my ideas? Who is going to read my ideas and believe in my ideas? And these are questions that actually puzzle a lot of people. So it is one setback that is actually preventing a lot of people from writing. So the belief in your ideas. And so the first person who should believe in your ideas is you. That is the first point of contact. You should believe in your ideas. You should believe in your ideas. Whether somebody believes in your ideas or not, you should believe in your ideas. So the question of as to whether somebody will believe in your ideas or not is a thing of the mind. How you perceive yourself. Are we together? How you perceive yourself, your thoughts. So we are transferring knowledge. As writers, we transfer knowledge. Now, as a matter of fact, the world is ruled by ideas. The world is ruled by ideas. If you take people like Aristotle, if we take people like Plato, Socrates, these were people who actually propounded ideas for the development of their nation, US. And these people died centuries ago. And today, their ideas are ruling the US. They propounded the concept of democracy. That almost everybody, almost like most countries in the world today, what we are enjoying as democracy today were actually propounded by people. These are people's ideas. And they are dead and gone. Until today, we can't live their concepts. Are we together? So, we are transferring ideas. We write not because for ourselves. I was telling a renowned author, I think last week or so, I was telling her that, look, what we are doing today is not because of us. Tomorrow, we may not be here, but our ideas will keep impacting people. Our ideas will keep impacting people. We still have old books that we read from authors we don't even know anywhere. Some of them, even if you Google their names, you can't even find their names anywhere. And you read their books and you still be like, wow. But these books are written like so many years ago. Some of them are 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years. Old books are very relevant today. All right? Because their ideas have been transferred from their generation to other generations. All right? So it is very, very important. It is very, very important. Are we together? It is very, very, very important. So everybody must endeavor to write. You need to tell your story. Nobody can tell your story better than you. No one can tell your story better than you. Now, the reason we have a lot of problems with memoirs, when we say memoirs are autobiographies. Okay? So somebody has written about his or herself, his or her experience in life, his or her journey in life, and all of that. Now, the reason you have a lot of counter accusations and backlashes and all of these things is simply because the people mentioned in these memoirs are still alive, so they can respond. And these claims that are written in these memoirs can be verified. That is why you see a lot of counter accusations and all of that. Yes. If imagine somebody has written a memoir and then all the people that he mentioned in the memoir are dead and gone. Who will come and accuse the person, the writer? Nobody. You can't counter anything. You either choose to believe or not. All right. So when someone has written a memoir or an autobiography, and you think that the claims in the memoir or the autobiography are far from the truth or the facts, you have the opportunity to respond. Not with press conferences. You also have to write. Powerful writing is. Now, those who rule the world today are ardent readers. Okay? You cannot be a writer if you're not a reader. I mean, somebody was asking me, how did you write all these books in you? Because when I started writing, in less than 2 years, I'd actually written, is it 30 or more books? Yes. And somebody was asking me, how are you able to do all? And I was still a student too. Yes, I was at the university when I even launched my first book. Yes, I think level 100 or so when I launched my first book. But I was already writing. All right? So writing has always been part of my journey. Now the reason is that while I was growing up, I was very timid. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't talk. I was extremely quiet. I couldn't express myself. So the best way to actually communicate anything I wanted to communicate was through writing. All right? And at that point, I was stammering. I wanted to say something, I was struggle. Then I prefer writing the thing than saying it. And so at that tender age, I saw myself gravitating towards writing. Okay. And then because I wasn't sociable at the time, I would find myself spending more time with my books. So I read a lot. Okay. I read a lot. Now, for some years now, I started with, in a year, sometimes I could read I think I started with 20 books in a year. Then the following year, I increased it to 30. The following year, I increased it to 40. The following year, I increased it to 50. And so, it was, I think before COVID, the year before COVID, was it 2019 or so? So that year, I read about 84 books. And then the following year, COVID struck. And all of us were quarantined in the house. And so it was more like my comfort zone. So I had more time to read. And during COVID, I was writing a lot. I was writing a lot of articles. And I was also editing a lot for, these people at the medical field. So some doctors from different countries, they were writing their reports on the whole COVID saga. So I was editing a lot and I was writing a lot. I was reading. So you cannot be a good writer if you are not a good reader. It's a must. It's not rocket science. So if you want to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader. You always have to be ahead of people. Are we together? You always have to be ahead. If people who read your books are reading the same number of books in a year as you, then there's a big problem. It's a very big problem. So recently I was trying to research about some of the most successful business people in the world or leaders in the world. And I found out that these people read a lot. I think Bill Gates says you read about 50 books in a year. Elon Musk, the same thing. I mean, you could see it's more like a common denominator amongst them. The common denominator among these people is their reading habits. They read a lot. Is that okay? So it is very important that everybody must read. They say if you want to hide something, I don't want to qualify with a black man or whatever. If you want to hide something, is it from the black man, eh? Hide it in the book. It is very true. It is not wrong. It's very true. Okay, it is very true. So somebody also asked me, so when do you write? When and where do you write? When and where do you write? So the question of where, I think we have, as writers, we have limitless borders in terms of writing. The reason is that anywhere you find yourself, you can write, because an idea can drop and you want to document your idea. So when we say writing is simply a documentation of ideas. Is that okay? Writing is simply a documentation of ideas. So if you want to document your ideas, anywhere you are, you can actually document your ideas. Is that okay with you? Anywhere you find yourself, you can actually document your ideas. When I was in secondary school, in those days, I went to school in an area where it was more like how do I even qualify? You will not see houses around, no. Where my school is located, you won't really see houses. Yes, it was like a typical, I don't know if I should say, I don't want to use the word village, but where the school is located it's very far from the community. The school is located at the outskirts of the town. So you will not see like many people there. You won't see like houses there, but you can see some schools around. So in those days, we had the opportunity to learn at different points. So you could go to some of these basic schools. And we also studied in the bushes. We created some hedges in the bush, and then you could just go there and just lay there and read your books. So normally, anytime I'm going, I'll go with my diary. So I had a couple of diaries. And I wrote everything that I would do after school in that diary. All right? So many years ago. All the things that I wanted to do, I wrote everything down. And so, even the diary I'm holding today, this diary from 2017, you see, I have some important information in this diary that the more it decides to tear, I'll keep protecting it. So you've seen how I'm handling it. It's still there. Since 2017, how many years now? Is it 5 or 6? 6 years. I still have it. Very important information in this diary. I don't joke with it. So my brother is here. Anytime he takes this diary, I fight with him. No. This diary contains very vital information that I don't joke with. And a lot of people fall prey to many things around simply because they forget where they started. They forget how they started. And they forget where they are going. It is very easy for such a person to actually fall prey to so many things around. Are we together? It's very easy for such a person to fall prey to so many things around. So everybody must have a vision. What is vision? Vision is simply a mental picture of your future. A mental picture of your future. So if you close your eyes, you should be able to see where you are going. If you close your eyes, you should be able to see where you are going. So in the next 5 years, you should know where you are going, where you want to be. It is very important. It doesn't happen by chance. No. It is strategic. It is intentional. So you must be intentional about it.